Welcome to the Sarah Scoop Show. It's time to get the scoop with Sarah.
My name's Kolton Pierce. I was on Marrying Millions and I make music now. You can stream all my music on all streaming platforms. At first it was a little nerve-wracking because I'm not a person that likes cameras in my face, which is odd since I make music and music videos and stuff like that. But even for a while, it took a little for me to get comfortable with that. And whenever I watched the show back, I realized from the first scene I was in it till the end that it took, like, I ended up getting comfortable with it. But at first it was just weird. I just wasn't used to it. So other than that, it wasn't too bad. I kind of knew in a sense what I was getting into, but it's kind of one of those things where whenever you're making music and people say not everyone's going to like your stuff, you're going to hear hate and this and that, you just have to ignore it. It's just a lot different when it's actually happening. So it took a little bit for me to get a grip on how to handle that. I think they were more critical whenever it was on Lifetime, but on Hulu, since it's been on Hulu, a lot of people will, DM me and ask, really any question. And a lot of people say, like, sorry if this is straightforward or stuff, but like, it doesn't really bother me since, I'm pretty open about every aspect of my life anyway. So yeah, other than that, I mean, people haven't really been critical towards me. They've been pretty supportive. Yeah, we just met through one of my buddies. He was at the time, him and Julia were like talking to each other. Nothing really came of it, I guess. And then that's how Katie and I met. It wasn't like Julia and I knew each other for like, our entire lives. No, honestly, I didn't really none of it really affected me until it was on TV, if that makes sense. Cause like I'm from a small town. So, even when we were filming, it was still like, nothing felt different for me. So even whenever she asked me, I didn't even know if it was really a thing, like if it was really going to come to fruition. So I was just like, yeah, I mean, that would be cool. But I didn't really think much about it at that point. And then based off what she said with previous shows she's been on, it takes like, multiple steps for them to see if you're even interesting enough to make it through. And so they kind of like, we did a Skype interview with us to see if we were a good fit. And she said, it's going to take like several steps for people to like accept us or not accept us or whatever. And then the next time they called back, they just said they wanted us on there. So it just was it streamlined very quickly. It just depends on where I'm at. Like, during the end of the show, I went out to places in Fort Worth and Dallas a little bit more, and people started to recognize me. And that was kind of weird just for me because, so for me, like, obviously I make music and I want people to recognize me for that. And then people want to take pictures or this or that, like in airports, or sometimes there was that, like, I'd be working out at the gym and people would run to take pictures. And that's cool. Like, I did it with them, but I know they want to take pictures because I was on TV, but personally to me, it's like I didn't do anything like really special, but to them, like, they're fans of the show. So I understand. So it's cool to be able to do that for people. Yeah, well, it was like when I was at Texas State, I wanted to play basketball and my knee was like really bugging me. And so eventually my knee, I was going to have surgery on it like a couple years later, but at that time I didn't know. So all the kids I was hanging out with, they wanted to freestyle and rap and this and that. So I ended up getting my own studio equipment. That way we could all hang out and do this. At that time I was only actually recording for them. I wasn't like in the booth doing anything. I wasn't recording on a mic. So eventually one day some kid didn't show up and one of my buddies was like, you should get in there. And I had just been around them so much that I kind of just winged it. And it was extremely nerve-wracking because I don't really, I mean, personally, I think a lot of people don't really like hearing their voice on a video when they hear it the first time. So hearing someone play it back, I was like, it's just like made me feel really weird about it. But I mean, they all liked it, and I just continued to do it because it was really fun to be able to listen to something you created. So I mean, technically, I'm in the studio right now because it's just I have my own home studio now. But really, the way I make my music is I listen anytime I drive anywhere. I just listen to beats all day, and out of that whole day, I might find one that I like. So it's a lot of just. I mean, there's some that I like, but I can't really see myself on them and stuff like that. So when I finally find one I like, I've already written down like stories. I used to write a lot of poetry and stuff like that. And that's basically what music is just poetry with a beat or songs or guitars or pianos behind it and stuff. So I already have a lot of stuff written, and I have it organized to where I've written, stuff that sounds like this, or it's energetic or sad. And if it aligns with the beat, then I kind of just mix and match it at that point and make sure it sounds fluid and not forced. When I first started making music, for sure. As of late, not really. I've kind of just, I mean, since I opened up that area of my life basically to the world, it's a lot easier now. But when I first started making music, I was afraid to do stuff like that because if I did, there's always going to be people who don't like your music, period. So I knew if people were like, oh, this is bad, this is trash, this or that, in my heart, I would think, well, I didn't even, say anything I meant on that. So it doesn't really hurt my feelings. So I was always hesitant to do that and then somebody down it and then me take it personal. But then I just learned not to focus on those type of people. And again, that took a long time to do because there's some people that just want to rile you up and get you mad for no reason. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like it's a weird situation because for me, I think that everything you go through essentially makes you who you are today. And not to say that you couldn't have learned those lessons in a different way. The whole everything happens for a reason is a very like touchy subject whenever you start getting into, stuff that can be difficult in life and didn't need to happen per se. But yeah, I'm just open about that stuff because there's people who've been through a lot of things and they don't really have a platform to say it, or they just don't have it's hard to deal with that stuff and just say it and put it out there because you're being so vulnerable. And I've been blessed to be put in a situation where, it took me a while to get okay with that. And now that I am, I want to speak for other people. And I've had people, DM me and say they really connected with like me saying that stuff. So, and that was really the goal of that. Like, I want to let people know they're really not alone and I am who I am. So. I actually jumped around like 4 or 5 times, but I went to UMHB, then Texas State. Then I came home when I had my surgery on my knee and played at a school called SAGU. It's in Waxahachie. And then I actually finished at North Texas in Denton. A lot of musicians don't really, whenever I do music interviews, it's very weird for them because I mean, personally, I think I make good music. There's not a lot of people in Dallas that are making music that I feel like is on par with mine. And I've only been doing this for like 2.5, 3 years. And it was never, even when I was in high school, it was never a plan. Like, I didn't ever think like, oh yeah, one day I'm going to make music at all because I don't know how to play any instruments. I don't know how to do any of that. I do everything on a computer. So when I run into these people who have been making music since they were 15 or 16, and their stuff doesn't sound as good or they're not as good as me, it kind of it just rubs them the wrong way. You know what I mean? So, but on the opposite side of that, I'm not super talented in making music. I've just worked really hard on learning everything because I've self-taught myself everything. So And, I saw a quote by Conor McGregor a long time ago. He's a UFC fighter or whatever. And he said that he's not talented. He's just obsessed with being good. So, and he was like, he's right in the sense, like, obviously he is gifted and talented, but it does come to a point where your talents can only get you so far. And then you have to work extremely hard. And that's kind of what he was saying is everyone's a human. We're all given this body, so it's been a very, long 2.5, 3 years to be able to get where I'm at, but I have worked pretty hard for it. So I'm proud of it. You really just gotta like, you have to work hard. That's the bottom line. Like, I have a couple buddies of mine that, a year ago I would have said they're better than me at making music for sure. But now I've got to the point where they're not really putting out a whole lot of music anymore. And I think with me working on it as much as I have, it's impossible to, work on something for hours and hours and hours and not get better. So I feel like I've gotten better than them now. So really it just comes down to, you got to keep working on it. And there's sometimes I hear kids that, they'll send a lot of their stuff to me and I don't really like it. I don't think it's great, but I'll just tell them, keep working on it. You have potential and stuff like that. Cause everyone does have potential to get better. There's people that I talked to a while back that are now bigger and have like over 1 million followers. They could have easily trashed my music back then. Easily. It was not good, but they were like, yo, it's really good, this and that. And I told them, I was like, yo, man, I know you were lying, but I appreciate it. It was all pretty much YouTube and watching a bunch of interviews of artists. Like, there's an artist named Mike Stud, and he was this white rapper. Now he's this white rapper, but he played baseball at the University of Duke. And basically he hurt his shoulder and had to have Tommy John surgery. So whenever that happened, he decided he would put out like this music video. He was at some big D1 school. So whenever he put out this music video, he got tens of millions of views. And, it also wasn't talking about the greatest stuff. And the fact that he went to Duke, it was just making it worse because that's supposed to be like a pristine university. And he ended up, that injury ended up ending his career. But for me, it was a big deal because, you tend to see like your idols tend to be people you can see yourself as. And since he was like this white rapper, the only other white rapper I knew at the time was Eminem. And I know I can't do what Eminem's doing because that's a different type of talent. But yeah, so I just saw him and kind of latched on to like he was an athlete that changed to music. And I was like, man, I bet I could do this. Like, it's not as bad. But I still follow him to this day. And I actually have one of my friends who has a song with him. So that's pretty cool. It's really tough. I would love to work with him, obviously, or Russ. There's like a couple artists that I feel like I would want to work with, but I'm also very weird in the creative process. Like, even to this day, I have a problem with like, not really a problem. I just have like a certain comfortable that I have to get to record in front of someone. So most of the stuff that I recorded with people on songs, I record my part and then send it to them. So we're not even really in the same studio session and stuff like that. Probably like an hour max. I think that's why a bunch of my stuff is different because I've had people that would come into studio sessions and spend like hours upon hours doing stuff. And that's also why I don't like, it's hard for me to work with artists too, because, like I've said in the show, like I don't smoke or drink. Right. And that's like a lot of stuff that consists in the studio, which I don't mind as long as stuff is getting done. But a lot of it is sitting around and listening to beats. But by the time I come into the studio, I know what I'm listening to. I know what I'm about to say. Like, I'm ready to go as soon as I walk in, and I can record a verse in like 15 minutes. And since I mix and master my own stuff, I'll get it mixed and mastered in the exact same studio session. And the longest time that takes is just to send it to my album cover designer. And that's pretty much it on that. Like, I have a song coming out this upcoming week, and that hasn't even come out yet, and I'm already working on a song that's 2 ahead of that one. So it just continues to roll over. So I mean, and it's like, it's just fun. So it doesn't really bother me. I mean, I have a private group like on Facebook, and they're like very involved with how my music goes on, like behind the scenes and stuff like that. So I really do like hearing from them, and I'm pretty active in that group. So, and there, there's like a process that people have to go through to become a part of that. They can't just, I want to join your group, because those people have gone through like rounds and rounds of questions, and I feel like they deserve to get like inside looks on stuff. But everyone can do it if they want to go through the entire process of those questions. I wish. One of my buddies, Trey Summers, I've been following him for quite a while. I found him whenever I was in the oil field, and I kind of DM'd him and was like, man, your work's like really good. When I'm done with the oil field, I'm going to come to you. And he told me yes and this and that. And we talked a while back, and he said, whenever you contacted me and said that, I thought it was just like another rapper saying, yeah, man, when I get the money ready, but I ended up going to the oil field. And when I came back, I came straight to him, and he's done all my music videos so far. Yeah, he's a very talented videographer and photographer for sure. I definitely want to help other people make music. It's just a combination of finding someone who is making good quality music that I personally can be around. Whether they're making good music or not, I have to like it, because if I'm going to be involved with that person, I want to be around what I like personally. And I've got to find someone who is actually like dedicated to it. And really at that point, the sky's the limit. I have a couple people that I want to work with. I've got a process that I'm working with right now to expand my fan base, and I want to do that with a couple artists, but I have to get a little bit more data on my side to back up what I claim. So I'm almost there. It'll take a couple more months, but well, when I was in high school, I went to a public school, but we weren't allowed to have like tattoos or piercings, or as a guy, your hair couldn't go below your ears. So for me, when I graduated, I was just like, I'm going to grow it out. So that's kind of why I decided to do that. But, lately I've thought about just like cutting it off and donating it. And if I do that, I know it'll be a huge deal to everyone, because there was one day I put something on my story that I was going to cut it, and I just got so many DMs of people saying, you better not, and stuff. So it's tough. I need to get it trimmed regardless, but. Yeah, well, it's like this. I mean, it's like a relatively cheap shampoo and conditioner. Like, it's not anything crazy. People are like asking if I do hot oil treatments and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I probably should, but I don't. Honestly, I'm trying to, because people do the whole genre question a lot, and it's hard for me to say hip hop now, because it used to be like that, and now it's more pop, but it's not all the way. I think it's just like a new age sound. I think there needs to be a new genre that's actually made, that's on Billboard and all that stuff there, because there's a lot of artists now that are making these melodic type hip hop / pop songs, and it has to be its own genre, I feel like. But I feel like I do fall into that. Machine Gun Kelly's someone I listen to a lot, and he does the same thing. He's got very melodic pop type choruses, and then he'll rap in the verses. And that's like very much how I structure my style, because I listen to him a lot. So, but yeah, I mean, 3 words are tough. I would just say new age sound, I guess. I ended up taking 23 hours this semester, so I was like extremely swamped all the time. So that's also why I released up until next week, I'd only released 1 song, because working on music was just like almost impossible, because I had a job and I was doing 23 hours. There wasn't a lot of time for really anything. And then the COVID-19 stuff happened, and yeah, I mean, like, I graduated still, but it was it was what it was for everyone. Technically, you don't really get to do much, but it was still cool. I actually had a performance 2 days before all this stuff shut down. And then I've got some people who are like helping me out a lot. They toured with Akon. It's a duo. Their name's Tribe Mafia. And I mean, they've talked to me about doing, shows in the future and stuff with them, or just like performances at house parties and stuff. Cause they do a lot of that stuff in like Austin and Dallas and Denton. So, yeah, and they're really good people. So they've been helping me out a lot, which is rare in this industry, because when it comes to artist, everybody is so competitive. They think that, everyone's eating from the same plate. So they just get really defensive about stuff. So it's been really refreshing to meet someone that wants to help me out. Not really, because it's kind of like with whenever the reality show thing was happening, I got a lot of talk in my ear from people on set and Katie and stuff about, people are going to see this. Why don't you want to put makeup on for this? And I was just like, I don't care. Like, it's just like, I actually did, like, I care what people think to an extent, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to act like a fool. But yeah, I mean, like, people's opinion, if it's something as simple as that, like, it didn't really bother me at all. And with music, I guess in Texas, people would think like country music, but I know I hate country music, honestly. I mean, there's a couple songs that I like, and there's a couple artists that like I've grown up listening to here and there, but country's never really been my thing. So I could never even make that music, even if I wanted to. So, I'm just secure with like my family and who I am, that I don't really, outside noise doesn't really affect me a whole lot. It definitely is, because you think that you'll get more fan engagement and this and that, and you might, but what are you willing to give up if you're not happy about it? So it's Kolton Pierce 25 everywhere. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Spelled KOLTONPIERCE 25. I'm trying to get on a roll of releasing a song about every 10 to 12 days. So just to make up for all the lost time up to this point since I was in school. And I feel like I owe that to my people, because I know they like to hear from me. So it's been like kind of wishy-washy in that sense. Like, my dogs are barking a lot, and there's people in the house. So, and the mic that I have is very sensitive, because it's a very good mic, but it'll pick up pretty much anything that's happening around the house. So anytime I have quiet time, that's another reason I've always had to be ready to record at any time. I just get in there, do it real fast, 10, 15 minutes, and I'm done. And then I can mix and master it. Nah, I don't. I mean, other than, my family is pretty supportive of any and everything I do. I mean, but I think people got that from the show anyway, so.
Thank you for watching The Sarah Scoop Show. Head to sarahscoop.com for more.